Hi, I'm Kevin,
And I'm Amanda.
and we are serving up.
All that jam. A lighthearted look at the weekend jam bands.
Where we break down the jam scene's biggest stories,
Talk new bands
upcoming tours.
and show reviews. A little laughing, some hot takes, and an always positive message for the community.
Week of May 29th, 2023.
Welcome back. We find May rapidly disappearing in the rear view, and like the song about that Deadhead sticker when a Cadillac says, "Don't look back. You can never look back." How are we doing today, Amanda?
Hey, Kevin. I like that one. That's good. And so true, right? Don't look
So
back.
true. So true. Dead and Company's final tour hit Atlanta last night for show 5 of 29. They've just been fantastic. I know you said you saw a little bit of it. We've been knocking out some great interviews. So make sure you follow us wherever you pod so you don't miss anything. Today we have the Runaway Grooms interview coming up and our top 3 stories of the week. Did you get to see any live music this week, Amanda?
I did, Kevin. So I was really happy I got over to Wibby Brewing that's out here in Colorado. It's a great spot. They actually have a lot of good music for the Loggers and Lyrics Songwriter Series. And this is actually hosted by Andrew McConaughey, who we've had, of course, on the show, Drunken Hearts. And he puts together these really great lineups. I think this is the second time they've done this, and they're going to continue. Um, Everyone from, in this case, it was Kyle Hollingsworth, Maggie Rose. They've got a bunch of local people that kind of pop in, and they take a lot of breaks and they kind of weave in some stories and some songs, all acoustic, and it's just a really good time.
Now, I'm not sure in the March 15th episode if we did actually have any of that conversation, but we did talk about that a little bit. The
We did.
singer-songwriter showcase thing.
Yeah, because at that point, the first of that series was coming up right after that, so the timing was awesome. So yeah, it was a success, and like I said, they'll be doing these again in the fall. So really excited, and just it's cool to see artists get together in that kind of format. It's very different from a
Right.
typical show, and I think they enjoy it.
I've been in contact with Maggie Rose's management on and off, and hopefully sometime in June we'll get to talk to her because I believe she has a new album coming out, and I would just love to speak to her. I saw her when it streamed last year, maybe Peach or something, and she did Medicated Goo by Traffic. And I tweeted how it was the best thing ever, and she followed me on Twitter, and I was like, "Oh my god!" So I took that as a chance to be annoying and say, "Hey, how do I get an interview?"
Oh, I love that. That's so awesome.
What
You
can
know
you
what?
do?
We gotta get in there any way we can, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So the Dead and Company show in Dallas the other night was probably going to be ranked bottom of the 4, but it was still a really good show, and I'm excited for Atlanta tonight. We'll see what that looks like. I guess that'll be Atlanta tomorrow night.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm curious from your perspective, I mean, overall, now that the tour is kind of moving along, how do you think it's going in terms of music and just what they're putting out there?
I think that they are the greatest thing ever. I really, I don't know if it's nostalgia and knowing that this is it, but I've so bought into it, and I feel like I feel like for once they've really with Jay Lane. I'm not saying I'm not going to say that anybody made the band's tempo slower. When Billy was there, I think what it was complacency. Bobby slowed the songs down, and then Billy was like, just going with what it was. Jay isn't letting them slow down. But I also feel like there's been some rearranging of the rearrangements. Like Jack Straw, they no longer are putting the gap between we could share the women, we could share the wine in the next line. That he's cut out the whole bar of music that he was singing for a lot of Dead and Company. So I think the tightening up of the songs, Jay Lane being just a spring chicken and banging it out has made this. If you could see it, don't miss it.
Oh, I love that. And, I bet there is a little bit of psychology involved in that. When you were talking, it reminded me of this phrase that you hear about parenting all the time, which is you never know when something's going to be the last time you do that, right? Whatever it might be. But in this case, we do know. And so, yeah, I'm sure that that has something to do with the emotions or just, even the interest in really wanting to kind of dig into that tour.
I got to make my last school lunch last
See?
Wednesday, and but I knew that was coming. I was tweeting about it for weeks. I only have 20 peanut butter sandwiches to make. But that's so true. Knowing it's the end, I wonder if that puts pressure on you or if that releases the pressure.
That's a good point. It's probably kind of a personal thing. You know, I'm sure that people feel differently about it, but it's an
I'd be
awesome
like,
question.
it's time to let go. I got one
Yeah,
last shot.
might feel really good, you know, pretty freeing because you've decided that also. That's the other thing, right? Is they have planned this out. They announced this tour how long ago? I mean, a year ago or something like that, right?
Right.
Feels like it anyway. And so
Yeah,
I
last
feel like,
October, I think they dropped these tickets
mhm,
went on sale last October, and all of them are sold out. People were looking for Atlanta tonight all over, looking for the Nissan tickets. So I hope they'll pop up. That the
right.
people on Stub, they're running like 200 on StubHub, which is outrageous. I don't know what they were originally, but for a lawn ticket,
Mhm.
I'd go hang out in the parking lot,
I have
make
no
it
issue
real
with that.
old school.
Yeah.
Be
You
like
know what?
Taylor Swift.
That's right. It's like it's old school made new.
Right. I saw a video of outside of Philly for Taylor Swift, and there were 10,000 people out there just standing all around the building and singing along because there's a huge opening in one part of it. So they probably heard a echoey kind of okay sound, but they were all out there singing, and I was like, good for you guys.
Yeah, love it. They're having fun and they clearly care a lot about that music, which is something that we all can understand.
Yeah, exactly. And with that, why don't we jump into
The top 3 stories of the week.
All right, Kevin, 3 stories for this week. I want to start with one that, in some ways, really connects to our show, not only what we talk about, but also just the jam band scene. As you know, because we've talked about this before, this is the 25th year anniversary of Humphreys McGee. And the reason I wanted to mention this today is because I had just heard that they've unveiled a trailer for a new documentary, Frame by Frame, which kind of captures their careers and growth, and that's going to premiere on June 11th on Nugs and also in Chicago at the Music Box Theater. And I love these. I don't know about you, but I'm a huge fan of these kind of like retrospectives. They have such an extensive archive. And they've got Pete Herzog directing this thing too. So I think it's going to be great. I'm excited for it.
yeah, it's going to be fantastic. I saw the trailer for it. Yes, I'm very excited. Maybe we can get somebody like Joel to come on and talk about it.
I think we should definitely try that because at the Chicago premiere, they're also going to have a little Q&A with a couple members of the band. Um, Pre-orders, I think, have already started for that,
A
but you know,
DVD? Are they going to
you,
actually release a DVD, or is it just going to be? Are
I
we
don't
bringing
know.
VHS back? We brought cassettes
Um,
back.
no, I think this is actually. So this is what I heard. Um, so the pre-order started last week, and what that's for. There's going to be a thank you for the first 500 pre-orders of the virtual stream. Those people are going to have their name in the film's credits. Isn't that interesting?
Nice.
So, I mean,
500 people.
500, yeah.
That's going to be long ass credits. They're going to run it really fast, like they do on TV when they're trying to get to the next movie.
I was going to say, or just like a big block of text. Like, there I
Yeah.
am.
Right, like
But
on the
yeah,
back of your high school graduation shirt.
that's right. That's right.
There I am.
So I think that's just a fun thing to to mention. And obviously, as we know, so many of the bands we love have hit that mark and then some. But it's nice
Right.
to see that. I love
Right.
to see the longevity.
Wasn't it P Groove that was telling us? Didn't they do a crowd-funded thing for their last album?
Yes.
I think it was. Very nice.
Yeah. So congrats to Humphreys. They have put in their time, something like 2,600 performances to date, and
I'm a big
going
fan.
strong.
Big
Yeah,
fan.
absolutely. Okay, so next up, Kevin, I know you and I chatted a little bit about this before we met today. I did have a story that I wanted to share, and this is around Roger Waters. And I always have to make sure I don't say Robert Walter. It's very confusing these days since they're touring together.
Right.
So I'll make sure I get the name right for this one, especially. So Just last week, Roger Waters was kind of put on the spot a little bit in Berlin, and as we've talked about, I think a couple times, he tours internationally, just seems like nonstop. Um, but he had been called out some criticism over some wardrobe choices, and there was a decent amount of backlash. So let me kind of set this up. I'm going to try to do this just really objectively, and then Kevin, any thoughts or kind of context you have, I'd love to hear it. So he wore a Nazi like uniform during recent concerts in Berlin. This is not at all unusual if you think about what they're performing. And basically, that performance, according to him, is clearly a statement in opposition to fascism, injustice, all of that. Um, so it's a long black coat with a red armband. And he said that it's a depiction of an unhinged fascist demagogue. And the thing is that that's been featured in past live performances going back literally to the early 80s. But now there's an investigation that's been opened of Waters on suspicion of incitement over the uniform.
Oh,
So
in Berlin.
in Berlin, yeah. So authorities said the costume could constitute glorification, justification, or approval of Nazi rule and is therefore possibly a disturbance of the public peace. And that is a very specific type of law or, kind of something on the books out there. Of course, we can understand that because of just the historical, connection to the Holocaust. But that's what's happening. And I thought it deserved a little bit of a mention.
Right. Now, I just want to say that if you want to pop in the wall from 1982, Roger Waters is wearing the exact same thing that Bob Geldof did in that movie. If you know the context of what he's doing, recreating the movie, recreating what the wall is, if you've listened to it, which is about fascism and, government and religion and parental control over you, that's why he did it. I get that it was probably in the culture we live in when everything's a 30-second clip, it looks really bad. I take a step back and see the context of it. I don't feel it's like that the guy who Taylor Swift dated who does the Nazi salutes. I think that that's a whole, he says it's for the same reason. I don't know about him, but Roger Waters, he gets a lot of backlash because he speaks, what I often wonder, let me ask you this. If Frank Zappa was around today, how much trouble would he be in?
Oh, he'd be in the news a lot. I have a feeling, just simply because of not only what he might be doing, but the general attitude around it. I'd be very curious, but I'm sure that a lot of our current cultural norms would probably not be something that he'd be cool with.
Right. And if I were to say something to Roger, I'd say, it's part of your show. I get it. It's built into the show. You can't just drop something without, everything's scripted with that show, but maybe drop that part of the show. There's so much other stuff. You got dogs and pigs and sheep and everybody else. If you want to make the political commentary, go for it. I did see where he threw up on the screen some Anne Frank's name, and I'm like, dude, you're really pushing it. And I like to push it. I have no problem. I'm a punk rock guy. So
yeah, I think and I'm not justifying anything, but I know I have read in several places over the years, that Roger's dad had died in World War II. I think Roger was only like 5 months old or something
right.
like that. They
He
were,
spent the whole final cut talking about that.
yes, yeah, actually, that's true. Good point. Maybe that's where I heard it. Didn't remember that part. Yeah, and I know he mentions Anne Frank in different places as a name that was brought up, but I agree. Even if that's all true, and I'm not trying to suggest that Anne Frank wasn't a symbolic piece of his family history in some way, but that doesn't mean that you necessarily need to throw it up there like you're talking about, right? Like maybe that's not always the best way. I have no idea, but people are definitely going to have feelings about it. And in this case, it just went a little bit further than that.
I've always said that social protest is best accomplished through music or magazines. Hustler did more for the First Amendment than every protest that existed since the 50s did. just because he put it in your face, Zappa. I wrote a whole paper in college about Zappa called "The Importance of Being Frank," and the whole point was that social protest, what he did, everybody he made fun of made everyone talk.
Hmm. Right.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's the silver lining we can take out of it, is maybe this will open some conversations that need to be had. I don't
Yeah.
know what they are, but
Well, we're having one. And so, I mean, maybe that is doing its job. And I totally agree with you about Zappa. I think, if nothing else, and there's quotes and stuff about, just almost forcing people to have to think about their own beliefs and what's going on in the world. And, I'm grateful to people who can do that in informed, intellectual ways too.
it's a fine line to walk.
It's very fine line. And that's why I don't do that. But I
Exactly.
admire people who
That's
do.
why we are a lighthearted look at the weekend gym.
That's right. Exactly. Couldn't be much more than that if you're me. So, but I do really, yeah, I do really appreciate people who are not afraid to do that and risk whatever is going to happen. Well, speaking of risks, this is a horrible segue, Kevin, but let's get to our third story. This is mitigating risk, I guess I would say. Um, right down the road from me in Broomfield, Colorado, just heard last week that the First Bank Center is no more. It's going to be closed as of November 30th. So
I
just a
saw
couple months
that.
from now. I know. So it's a 6,500 capacity venue. It could be gone as early as next spring. And I didn't realize it had been around for 17 years. Not that I thought it was new or
And
anything,
it
but
never made a penny.
I guess that it's really been a struggle. That, yeah, they never broke even. So it was built in 2006 for like $45 million.
Fish played
Uh,
there.
I mean, a lot of bands have played there, but it was a unanimous decision from the city council just last week, with one of I guess the city manager maybe saying, it's time we rip the Band-Aid off. So apparently, this has just been a topic, of
It's
conversation.
been sucking the taxpayers' money.
Yeah, yeah, because that's right. Because they had all these taxpayer bonds and everything. And it just gets to a point where if they're running somewhere between $250,000 to $1 million in debt every year for the last 5 years, which is what it was.
Right.
Plus,
So
they need a
between
roof.
$2 and $5 million.
So they need a roof. They need all these system upgrades, and it was just too much.
What is the scene out there like with venues? Are there other, like Red Rocks, I guess, is a 6,500 seat venue. It just doesn't exist in the winter. You can't have a show there.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, that's one reason why I really like the First Bank Center personally. I thought that it filled a little bit of a need in that mid-range, size for venues where you're going to be able to get your Billy Strings, who is just there. He managed to sneak in, right?
And
String
what,
Cheese,
didn't Goose play there?
Goosemas, absolutely. Goosemas was really fun this past December. So,
But then J Rad canceled for New Year's. Maybe they were like, we aren't going to take another loss on the show,
mhm.
having you guys come out.
Yep. Honestly, that was one of the first things I thought of when I heard, and locally, this has been a big topic all week, of course, was who knows financially, maybe that you never know what that last thing is, right? That's just going to kind of put something over the edge. And I'm sure that was a huge loss on top of everything else for them.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, out here, so we've got the Fillmore, which is it's just under 4,000. Mission Ballroom, when it's at its full capacity, I think is right around that. So I mean, there are
And
venues.
and the rest of the state. I mean, I'm sure Colorado Springs has a mid-sized venue of some kind, maybe where on the college campus. You have so many colleges out there. Those venues
Right.
suck acoustically, but they exist.
They're venues. That's right. And we've all spent our time in those kind of venues for sure. So, I don't really think it's necessarily going to be missed so much as it was never a place that I kind of hated going to, right? It was just
Right.
kind of, it was there, it's close by.
Nobody called it their home base.
No, it's not going to be like that. It's not going to be like a Cervantes where, at least for me, when I go there,
No.
I am so immersed in
Right.
everything, or Red Rocks, of course. So, we'll move on. I'm curious to see what ends up going there. It's a area that's been built up so much with really great apartments, hotels, restaurants. In some ways, First Bank Center doesn't really fit in with what is there now. So that's another thing too.
There we go.
Yeah.
So here we're going to try a better segue. We have an interview coming up with Runaway Grooms, and they are out of Colorado, right, Amanda?
They
Do you want to
are.
give us a little bit of background on them?
Oh yeah. So it's funny because Kevin, I don't remember when we talked to them. Do you remember that?
February.
February. Okay.
Mm.
I knew it was a while ago. Thanks. Yeah, so I was really excited when we got a chance to talk to the Runaway Grooms. And that was, I think, one where we had pretty much the whole band. Is that right?
We had 3 of the 4, yep.
So they are, of course, kind of immersed in the jam band scene. They kind of mix jazz, rock, and folk together, I think, more or less equally. Um, they have a really great live performance. Hold on. They have really great live performance energy. They are not afraid to meander along. Great percussion too, which makes dancing really fun when you're at one of their shows. So I definitely was excited to talk to them because they each bring kind of a unique musical history to their work also, and it was great to sit down with them.
Right, the second clip that we're going to get into is about them being a 4-piece in the live experience, and they're fans of the Allman Brothers.
Mm.
They're fans of the big band jam band thing. But the first clip that we get into is about them being in the studio, and you asked them a really interesting question about making videos. So let's check that out, and we'll see you on the other side.
Kind of just wanted to start with your newest album, This Road. I've been listening to it a ton. There's so much to it. I was just curious if maybe we could chat a little bit about where kind of the impetus for that one came from, and your thoughts on how the reception to it has gone.
The impetus. Oh yeah. I mean, basically, we 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 uh, we just kind of put together whatever songs sort of pop up in the music room, and a lot of them at that point in time had been kind of heavily centered around being on the road and touring, and we had kind of been heavily touring for a couple of years and are pretty new at it. So there's a lot of learning experiences and emotions I think that were going on. So I think that definitely inspired a lot of that music. But again, as you can tell, it's a pretty eclectic album. So there's definitely some other things that really inspired some of the other songs like Jenny and Heartwork.
Would you consider this then your third album? Because I know you put out Tied to the Sun in 2020, then you had something come out last year. So that's a lot in just a couple years. You think you can kind of keep that pace, or have you managed to get all that
Yeah,
produced?
we definitely work hard at it. We love writing music. It's something that I think we all find a lot of joy in, and is coming up with new music together. So to us, it's a thrill to be able to go into the studio and put something down. So we work hard to do that. If we can find an opportunity in our busy schedule to get, now it's Memphis. It's always Memphis now. It seems like where we want to go record with our buddy Jeremy. Um, if we could pop out a record every year, I'd be stoked. I think now too, we do have a one live album, so 3 studios and 1 live album. We're we're playing so many live shows, and we're starting to get the technology and the capabilities to record these shows. So I think you might start seeing some more live albums coming out in the future, because that's also where we really pack a big punch and have a lot of fun on stage, bring a lot of energy. So you might see more live stuff coming out soon.
But as far as writing the music goes, I feel like personally, that's where this whole thing comes the most natural for me, at least. The grueling touring days or the playing show after show after show. It is a lot of fun, but to me, the heart of all of this is when you're playing with your brothers in a little barn in Eagle, and all of a sudden this cool little harmonic melody of some sort pops out. To me, that is the easiest part of the whole being in touring band and a professional musician, like the writing to us comes pretty easy. It's more about keeping time to do that. As far as like writing and continuing to write an album a year, it seemed very, very achievable. We just sit on all these ideas for so long, and eventually one gets to squeeze into the light, and it's beautiful. So.
Wow, I love that description. And I know that at least a couple of you grew up together. So I mean, is part of that from just knowing each other for a long time and kind of having that flow, or would you just say it's kind of just something that's inherent for all of you?
It's just something that we've improved on too. But I grew up with the drummer, and so we certainly have a good chemistry. But I think that is a very important thing in terms of the writing room is chemistry and communication. And we seem to just get along most of the time. and we've gotten better at just communicating with each other and accepting what people have to say and really listening. And it's such an important part of working on a team is that communication and
chemistry.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, how did that play out for that music video that you all have for Mr. Ford, which I've watched a bunch of times. It is so cool. Like, I would love to try to describe it, but I kind of want to hear what you all would say about it. Like, would love to know anything about that process and who put that together.
The video for those listening is very experimental and psychedelic, and just like takes you to so many different places. I feel like that unexpected. That actually came about. A good friend of mine, actually from high school, Cam Taylor. I kept seeing he's like posting a lot of AI projects that he's working on, and he started doing some music video ones. And I was like, wow, this is so rad. And he's super talented. And the band had been discussing for a long time ago when we first started writing Mr. Ford, the band had been discussing kind of like a cartoon-esque music video or animated video for this tune. Because Mr. Ford is an instrumental tune. And we just kind of saw that, and I reached out to Cam and was like, let this kind of, we want him to like have his art on it too. So it's not like, for the video we're really coaching him on what to do or where to do or when to do it. It was more just like, let's collaborate your art form and our art form together. And he came out with a beautiful piece of art, and it's super cool.
Yeah, you never know when a question is really going to take you off into a fantastic part of the conversation. But I learned a lot, and it's just cool to see bands, which we hear kind of frequently, getting into all aspects of media and kind of creating in different ways. We're going to get back into the interview here in a second, but before we do that, as always, just wanted to remind everybody that if you are on social media, and I'm guessing you are, please find us on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter at All That Jam Pod. Also, allthatjampod.com. And then hook us up with a review, a like, subscription. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, so we really appreciate that. And with that, let's go back into the second part of this interview where we talk a little bit about there being a 4-piece band. And also we had a great chat about that live experience for Runaway Grooms, like I had mentioned earlier. So let's take a listen to that. Not yet. not yet. I wanted to make sure that that we chatted a little bit about just the makeup of the band, because I know that you all have transitioned from being a 4-piece to a 5-piece led band, and I'm curious if you could just chat, a little bit about that decision, when that happened, and kind of what that's brought to what you all do.
It's always it seems like it's always evolving. It started out as just 3. And then it turned into 5. And one of the members that was touring with us and was actually a founding member just became a little bit kind of disenchanted with it, and the road was really hard for all of us, and he kind of made the decision that he'd be better off to move on. So for us right now, we've played with other guitarists. We like to have the 2 guitars. I think if we had it our way, we'd have 2 drums, 2 guitars, a piano, and organ player.
And percussion.
2 drums drum percussion. We like the big sounds, and we like the Allman Brothers sound and the Grateful Dead, and what you can do with that big band is really awesome. Right now, we've kind of had to realize, well, let's get, because we can't have another guitarist quite yet commit fully. We decided that let's get really tight as 4. This is kind of the core group right now. Let's get solid with 4. If we want to bring on someone when they're ready, we'll be totally ready for that as well. But
it's filling with the improv component and with all the different how would you say that? Not just harmonies, like there's vocal harmonies and guitar harmonies and organ/guitar. When me and Adam go into organ line and guitar line, then it's like, okay, so who is going to fill in other than the rhythm going on drums and bass? We're used to hearing that in that space, there's a rhythm guitar player, or vice versa. I'm playing the rhythm chords, and then guitars are harmonizing. So it's been a really fun challenge to say, okay, so how do we reinvent this exact sound that we like and kind of manipulate it into the 4-piece, which has been cool because we're all students of our instrument.
Would you all consider ever getting people kind of for one show here or there, kind of guest appearance for that extra sound? Or like you said, are you really focused on just kind of keeping it where it is right now and making the most of that?
No, we've done that too. And it's super fun to have another guitarist come on. You get a unique style that you get to play to, and it kind of gives a whole different spin to whatever the song is. My little brother plays slide guitar, very similar to Dirk Trucks kind of sounding, and we've had him on a couple tours, and we love him. We want him to join on. He's got another project going on right now, so we're kind of holding out either for him or for someone who fits the bill, fits the chemistry, fits the thing the same way. So
I'm curious, when we think about the live experience itself, do you go up there with any kind of thoughts on like the emotions you want to bring to a particular song that night, or does it totally develop just as you're in the moment? I always love kind of thinking about that.
Yeah, great. That is a great question. For me personally, there's kind of like 2 components to that. The first being the audience, the vibe of the audience, we've played quite a few shows over these past couple of years, and is this an audience where people are fully engaged and letting themselves go to the music and really feel and absorb what's happening or being put in front of them, or are they all standing there with their arms crossed, judging your every move, or whatever it might be? There's this vibe that the audience brings that is irreplaceable, and also for me, just like this major factor in how the delivery of each song feels, and my connection to that as well. I think there's also going into the show, it's like, for me, it's really important to have like a space, a space to socialize and enjoy the company of your friends and bandmates, but also have privacy and be able to have a clear head or practice tunes or write songs or do vocals or whatever that is, that's so important. And it also is a big factor for clarity moving into a show, and the vibe that we're bringing. Were we relaxed and feeling like we have a family backstage, or did we just we showed up bad sound? We only get a 15-minute sound check, and then it's like go 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 go, and etc. So to me, a lot of the delivery of these songs on a show-to-show basis is dependent on those two factors of the audience and in our time right before the show. But
yeah, that's a good take.
It is all that. I was thinking too. Recently, I've kind of noticed if I can be present in the song, in the moment, and what that song means to me, and lyrically, I feel like the delivery is more authentic and purposeful. If I'm just singing the lyrics, going through the motions, the feeling isn't totally there. So I have to almost check myself and like, oh, I'm singing New England. I'm from New England. I'm singing about going back home. Like, this is fun.
Yeah.
Or I'm singing Jenny. This is a heavy song. So that's something I've noticed recently is like being present in whatever song it is that we're playing and kind of sitting in that.
It's interesting. I feel like a lot of the times I don't really get like the choice. It kind of is just going to happen how it was either supposed to happen or it's going to happen, like I sometimes will be like, okay, we're going to be funky tonight. Mm-hmm. Or like, we're going to be a little bit trippy or like, but it's just kind of, people start kind of like waving like in their energy in a sense, and you kind of just end up playing to whatever that is supposed to be. A lot of time I'm just like,
totally,
okay, we're getting a little funky. I didn't even mean to do this, but it's happening.
How does it work on the other side when you walk off stage and then you listen to the show later?
Oh, I'm hypercritical.
I'm so critical. I'm bad with it too. I actually don't like it. Yeah. I think it's good, like you said. It's nice to take notes. It's nice to be like, whoa, this isn't actually how I should be playing this part, or maybe I'm doing too much in this space.
Right.
But I feel like the learning's going to happen no matter what.
Totally.
So sometimes I'm like, it's like if I went back and listened to this podcast, I said like 6 times in that sentence. But no, some recordings are unbelievable. We recorded Floyd Fest. And we were on one in Floyd Fest. Everything felt right. Every transition felt awesome. You could hear the crowd just saying things like, wow, Cody's the most beautiful guy I've ever seen.
No, I mean, yeah, I catch that. Like, it's easy to be critical. Like, oh, hit this or don't hit that, or too much or stay back and less is more, etc. It's definitely always a great learning experience, whatever way it goes. And then sometimes we're just like, wow, we go back and listen to it and it's like, wow, that was absolute fire. Like for me, that is, we put out a live record from Boise, Idaho. And
complete accident.
It was like we're trying to record all our shows. We put a lot of our content up on Bandcamp for our live albums and stuff like that. So, we asked him if we could record the board that night, and he was like, "Hey, I don't have the capability. We can't do it." And so we play the show, very cool vibes. It's a jazz room, really, the Sapphire Room. And sure enough, like
2 weeks down the road,
I don't know, a couple weeks later, the guy sends us an email, and he's like, "Here's the show. It's mixed. It's mastered.
It's cut.
It's cut. Do with it whatever you like." And we go back and listen to it, and it's like, wow.
It's so great. They're a 4-piece, and they got the 5th piece there. One of the brothers. We'll see what happens if you get a chance to check them out. I am actually the night before Nissan next Friday. They are playing for free in Catonsville, Maryland, about 30 miles from where I live. So I'm trying to schlep my butt down there and see if they recognize me there. This week, the rest of the week, we got so much going on, Amanda. We got Jono Manson on his Almost Home LP and working with Blues Traveler on Tuesday. Wednesday, we got Matt Ruffino on Building Trust with Artists. You asked him a great question about how to do that, and there's some follow-up. It's a fantastic piece. Thursday, Jason Mingledorf on the Papa Grows Funk reunion and the set list, what was going on there. Friday, another great question you asked Lou Faber about Charlie Loves Our Band, the From Good Homes documentary. And we'll have that. Lo has a great beginning to that clip. You definitely got to hear that. And then Saturday, DJ Williams, Soldier of Love is coming out June 29th. His latest single, Black Man, with Kanika Moore, is out now, so you probably want to go check that out. You got anything coming up this week?
Yeah, Thursday, which is the first day of June, is unbelievable, but super excited to go see JoJo Herman. He is going to play at Ophelia's, which is just a super fun venue. It's very like intimate, the way that it's set up. Very, very excited for that. I love him. And he's also a great storyteller too. So I feel like this is a really good environment for him. At Cervantes on Friday, if I can make it, a group, kind of a super group, Trucetto. It's Casey Russell from Magic Beans, and then some local guys here, Taylor Scott, Will Trask, who shows up everywhere. And then my friend Todd Schaefer is going to be playing up in Golden on Saturday afternoon as part of a bluegrass fest. So there's so much music going on, Kevin, and that's literally just a drop in the bucket. Trying to be selective in a sense because it's hard
It's
to.
the time of year though. Everybody's trying to get back out there and
Agree. It's very exciting. I love to see it, but I also like to keep track of these shows that come up that are maybe a little smaller, different kind of venue. Those are really fun.
I love the smaller shows. That's why we always try to feature the bands you've never heard of. At one time, if you remember, Amanda, we were going to have a segment called The Best Band You Never Heard in Your Life. And it never kind of worked out, but
I would like to reinvent that because I know you do too. I think we both listen to a lot of music, and a lot of that music is not necessarily going to be on these bills, right? Of even what I just mentioned. So
exactly. But I guess what it's become is the up and coming spotlights that we've been doing in the origin stories.
Yeah, I like those a lot.
People. So next week I got, like I said, Runaway Grooms I'm going to try to do, but then Saturday night is Dead and Company at Nissan. Maybe my only one. I'm going to try to go to Philly too, but I am just absorbed with, I am just so in that space. I'm not going to let anybody bring me down. And with that, remember, stay beautiful, but don't stay underground too long. I'll see you next week, Amanda.
All right, Kevin. Thanks. Have a good one.